Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Tablas Creek Instagram Live broadcast. I'm Jason Haas. I'm joining you from a new location today because the internet is down out at Tablas Creek. So I am at my mom's house. This is the site of the full circle Pinot Noir that we make. I'll give you a little glimpse as to what that looks like. So I will have a guest join me as usual today. I'm super excited. It's Gwendolyn Osborn, who's the director of education for wine.com, who I think has been doing some of the most innovative and fascinating and really compelling content during the pandemic. So I'll ask her to join me in just a couple of minutes. But while we wait for people to join, I did want to give you a little bit of the visual tour of what's going on at the vineyard. So these are all pictures I took this morning. One of the things that I am excited about is that we are in the middle of doing some planting planning. So we're going to be planting about 10 acres this winter. This is a block just downhill from the winery and the tasting room. You can actually see some of the tasting room umbrellas in the background there. And this is going to be a show vineyard where we're going to have all 14 of the Chateauneuf du Pape varieties that we brought in. There'll be a walking path. We'll be able to take people on tours through there. I think it's going to be super exciting. It'll be right there, right, easily accessible. Right now, some of our new grapes are a long way away from the winery, and people will get a chance to see them this way. It's not the only thing that we're planting. We have a section that was some Mourvèdre and some Syrah, neither of which were super healthy, that we pulled out a couple of years ago, that we are also laying out. All in all, we're going to have about 10 or 12 acres of new vineyard by the time we get to the spring. So that's exciting. Otherwise, in the vineyard, we are in the middle of pruning. You can see there's a lot of the vines that are starting to look like it's springtime. This is a Mourvèdre block. But there's also a lot more of the vineyard that is still unpruned than that is pruned. And you'll get a sense of that from some of the other sections you can see in here. Let me see if I can get, this is a good one. You can sort of see the vineyard scrolling away. You can see what we're doing. We're collecting all of the prunings. So these will all go into our compost pile and get chipped up. We have the animals out in the vineyard. They weren't in a particularly accessible place, but you can see them kind of on this far hillside. This is down in a Grenache block. And I didn't get a close-up of them, but I did get Bjorn to come and say hello. He's as adorable as ever. In the cellar, we are getting ready to bottle our first bottling of the year. I don't know if you saw this picture that we shared yesterday, but this is our two rosés, the Patelin Rosé on the left and the Dianthus on the right. You can see one of the tanks that the Dianthus is in. And then our big exciting personal news here is that we have a new puppy who has joined the team at the vineyard. This is winemaker Craig Ham's new Australian Shepherd puppy who made her first visit to the winery today. So anyway, excited about that. Okay, I am going to exit out of these pictures, and I'm going to invite Gwendolyn to join. So while we're waiting for that, it's sunny and blue and still dry out here. We would desperately love some rain. Hey, Gwendolyn.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good.
It looks like you have nice weather in Virginia also.
Yeah, it's like 48 degrees, which is nice. I mean, it's not quite California, but I'll take it. So, and it's nice to be outside. So, yes.
I did a Zoom call this morning with our new agents in the UK, and they were like, "Oh, you have sun? We haven't seen sun in weeks. It's like raining buckets." And for me, I'm so jealous of all of the rain and the moisture, and I would love it to be green.
Yeah. No, it's been fairly dry. We've had some rain. We've had a couple of storms, and but I'll take cold without rain just so we can be outside. So I don't mind it, but I don't. Yeah, there's a balance here. Definitely more of a balance.
Cool. Okay. So I would love you to talk a little bit about how you got into wine in the first place. I think we first met, if I remember right, at the Santa Fe Wine and Chili Fiesta. Like,
It could have been that I've only been to that once, but then the time that I remember the most was when I was dating my now husband, but living in New York, and we visited, and I got to graft a vine at Tablas Creek and grafting pool. This is 2005, and that was the weekend. I mean, it was a whole weekend of like a getaway wooing trip, as you will, because those don't happen anymore. But that was when I decided to move out to California. But my path into wine started, I think, just I had parents who were Francophiles. They loved everything kind of French. They had wine with dinner. It was just kind of a part of life. So, even when I was in my teens, there's a difference between a Burgundy and a Bordeaux. And so, even in college, I was kind of known as the person who wouldn't drink wine out of the box. So it
hey,
started,
me
but
too.
yeah, hey. And now actually I might, actually that's come a long way, those box wines. But yeah, and then I moved to New York to try multiple different things, even a little bit of acting, which never really went well. But I kind of fell into a job with the Wine Spectator, oddly enough, in the advertising part once I decided to get a real job, and kind of grew from there. So I worked for Miriam Morgenstern, who so many people know and love at Wine Spectator, and then worked for Gloria Marodi Frazee in the wine education department there. So kind of fell into it, but it brought finally wanting to get into wine and learning about wine and educating people about wine. I felt like put that kind of mode of me that loves presenting and talking a lot with something to be really passionate about that other people are so passionate about. And it's that kind of wine kind of marries biology and agriculture and chemistry. And then you have a marketing side and that history side and these stories. And I just think and then it brings everybody together. So who doesn't love that?
That's one of the things that I often talk about when people ask me, like, so what's your average day like? It's like, well, there's not really an average day. There's so many different pieces because wine is so much. There's so much to wine. There's farming pieces, there's chemistry pieces, there's art pieces, there's history pieces, there's
Right.
regular business and marketing pieces. So
Exactly.
it does reflect where it comes from and the people who make it and the history that went into that in a way that very few other products can.
Very true. Very true. And then again, at the end, you're usually with other people when you're and and so yeah, it's all those kind of things that marry together. I was a history major, so of course I love that story. And then I always enjoyed like chemistry. I wasn't always great at it, but it's cool when you see it in practice. It's just wine just is such a hands-on thing throughout it. So it's a very cool thing. So now I'm here talking to wonderful people who make it, and I just get to enjoy it.
So what was your job as director of education at wine.com like before the pandemic?
Yeah, so it was kind of hard to be that, and we kind of I've changed my title so many times because I never really knew. Wine.com likes to talk about being very innovative and an innovator, and in that same sense, I feel like my job went up and down and up and down to so many different things there, just depending on what it needed at the time. So I was at a retail store at the very beginning when we once had a retail store, but then I helped launch our recommendations team, which to me was both a service of customer service, but to me that was also educating customers. So I was doing the recommendations team and helping with that for about 4 years, and then took a little bit of a step back just from craziness of family life and things like that, of having kids at certain ages, that I just wanted more hands-on time there. And also managing a large group of people, sometimes you feel like you're also parenting. And you're like, I gotta pick one here. No, and then but then I just started working with a lot of the trade organizations we work with and helping to train and educate some of the recommendations and customer service, as well as some of the content there. But I was just a little bit more kind of on the slightly more, on the part-time, if you will, just a little bit less directory, if you will. just more education when needed and required. And then obviously the pandemic hit.
And I feel like wine.com has been right at the very front of those sorts of smart pivots to figuring out how to connect customers with producers virtually. Um, what were those discussions like at the beginning of the pandemic?
At the beginning, it was Wine.com was working on launching something called Wine.com Experiences, which was really the goal was going to be more in person. Obviously, it was working with our stewardship customers. Those are people who belong to our free shipping, $49 a year gets you
Yeah,
free shipping. So something kind of just beyond the free shipping was, how can we work with wineries and producers to get our customers? Let's say they're visiting Napa, they're visiting Italy. How can we connect them so they can go and experience that story and talk to the people there? And just kind of trying to bring that experience to people. So that was getting off the ground. And then obviously nobody could actually go there. So the idea of coming up with the virtual experiences was there. But I think that one of the biggest parts of that conversation was how do we do it well? Because it's very easy just to jump behind a camera and do things. And these are, Instagram Live, this is great. These are all fun. But if we really want to reach and pull some producers that people really want to experience, this is the pandemic. Let's give them something that they really, and that's both educational, entertaining, and the right amount of time. And then the other key part of coming into these conversations, and Mike was involved, and we have a great director of experiences who's involved, and was how do we get people to have the wine? Because it's much more enjoyable to watch people talk about wine when you're able to drink it. That's just, it's just that connection was important. So I think that, I think our first one was later in mid to late April. And one of the reasons that it was longer than, it took at least a month was that kind of preparation of, do we use Zoom? If we do use Zoom, what kind of format do we do with Zoom? We need some lighting. We had to kind of have this. Do we just want one moderator? How many people should we have on? How long should it be? How many wines are appropriate? So just a lot of conversations to kind of really make sure, let's do this and do it so it's the best experience for the customer, and we're able to connect, and that the producers have fun too. We want them to enjoy it also. And some of the feedback we got, which we appreciate, and you've been on one, so you can tell me this, is that a lot of times the producers also feel like they're having fun, and they feel like they're connecting with people. And you were on with your friends, good friends, people banter back and forth, which is a lot of fun. But those beginning conversations, which were just kind of like, let's figure out let's invest in this. We don't know how long it's going to go on, but we know we wanted to do experiences anyway. We know producers are out there wanting to know, how do we now connect with our customers? How do we share our stories? How do we talk about these wines? You're not at these events. So those were the beginning conversations.
And Wine.com is in a good place to be able to actually reach customers in most states, which I think is one of the places that a lot of the live events kind of fall short. I'm proud of the stuff that we've done at Tablas Creek, but we can only sell people Tablas Creek wines. We can't coordinate with other wineries very easily and have a package that includes one of our wines and one of somebody else's wines and one of a third person's wines show up in any kind of coordinated way. That's just really hard. Everybody ships to different places. Everybody's got different point of sale systems. Everybody's got, it doesn't work so easily. And so the fact that you recognize that was a need and were able to step into it, it was really quick. It felt really quick. We were all still looking at each other, trying to figure out what was coming next. You were already scheduling cool events that I wanted to attend.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, a lot of this was behind the scenes. I would love to take credit for some of these wonderful ideas. I just show up and drink the wine. And, but these are places I have either been, there's a lot of the people that I've met before. So that is a helpful, I think, combination to have that connection, I guess, to either a place or a person. And most people are always are excited to do it, even those that we asked to stay up till 1 a.m. in Europe to do some of these. But I think that the feedback's been great. And I think that having the wine is one of those important things. And good internet connection also always helps. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed with the amount of wine that we sold in the lead up to it and afterwards. Even I've heard from people who watched the archived tasting and discussion and bought the wine pack to go with it. And like that. It's cool that it's had that longer lifespan. A lot of these can be very ephemeral.
Yeah, they can. And so, yeah, we've put them up on YouTube and we've edited them a little bit, of just the beginning and end of us bantering, and put them on YouTube. And those have really grown, I feel like. And the option that you can still go and buy that pack of wine and, enjoy along, and even sometimes even then you can get to fast forward if you're not interested in something, someone's saying, has been, I think, a great kind of connection. Again, you're not able to get over to that tasting room or take that trip,
Right.
from people who had parents who were supposed to be on somewhere on their anniversary or do something like that. And if you're not able to do that, how can we virtually connect you?
Now that we're what 9 months into this, are there to what extent do you think that these sorts of things are going to be durable? Are they going to stick around after we can go back to visiting wineries and traveling?
I think so. I don't think. We took a break over the holiday season. We're trying to schedule some new ones coming up at the end of this month. When we first started, it was 2 a week, sometimes 3 a week, because everybody was just in lockdown at home. Right. So I don't think we'll go back up to that kind of cadence, if you will. But I do think the virtual tastings do have their place. I think that producers are realizing, just like you said, you were impressed with how much wine you sold. And yes, it's not all about selling wine, but getting somebody to try your wine who hasn't before, is harder, I think, when you're just like relying on them to come to a Santa Fe Wine Festival or the South Beach Wine Festival, or some grand tasting where you're hoping they stop by your table and maybe you get to talk to them and tell their story and that sort of thing. So I think that there will be a place for virtual connections, just for people to explore, discover in their home, but also be able to talk to someone, the actual person behind making that wine, and producing that wine. And so we'll see. Maybe we'll have like a travel show, get on the road, go through, just like you're doing, right? People would still want to see that. Like, getting to Paso Robles is going to be harder for me now. So I kind of want to see what the good thing. That's exciting.
Yeah, I think there's an intimacy to these sorts of tastings that's different than what you get. I think it's a nice compliment in a lot of ways to what you might get if you went to a winery tasting room or you went to a big wine festival.
Yeah.
There are exceptions, but usually when you're doing that, you're not seeing the owner or the winemaker. You're going to a festival and seeing the regional sales rep, or you're going to a tasting room and you're seeing one of the tasting room people. And this way you're like, I don't know how many people have seen the inside of my living room over the last 9 months, but it's a lot more than did the previous couple of years. So
everybody, I got compliments on my kitchen. It's like, yes.
I had that thought. You have a very nice kitchen. And that's why I sort of, we've been basically planning, our planning has lined up with what you said. Maybe the demand for the frequency with which we do these things will be less, but I don't feel like they're just going to go away.
Yeah.
I think there's so many appealing pieces about these sorts of conversations.
Absolutely. And like, what you were saying is coordinating with people of, coming into maybe we were at the biodynamic conference. Well, a lot of people can't get there, but we do a trio on biodynamic wines, which we have done one on biodynamics in France. And then we had the green wine. Having all those kind of producers, thing that you don't always get. So maybe somebody's interested in one kind of subject, and being able to combine those in a half hour, 45-minute tasting is, worthwhile. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I know some of the organizations that I'm a part of, like the Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance or the Rhone Rangers, that's a conclusion that they came to, is that, just this discussion between winemakers, between winery principals, like that's a cool thing. It's a cool thing to be able to facilitate. A lot of that happens in normal life. That happens at restaurants that you happen to be out at together, or it happens at hotels when you're on the road, when you're done with a festival. But these aren't things that the public normally gets to see.
Right.
And so getting, 4 of us on a Rhone Rangers panel talking about Mourvedre from different parts of the West Coast, like that's a cool,
I'm writing
cool opportunity.
I'll write that idea down. That's a good one. But But no, it is, and I think customers, consumers, wine drinkers really like to see the friendship and because not every business people are sitting there getting along, talking about how's your dog or your daughter or whatever, and so having people kind of seeing that this is this community that sticks together and has such great relationships, because this is an industry about relationships, and so I think that consumers really like to see that.
And I think that's one of the things that wine is particularly good at, because wine is not a zero-sum purchasing game. I mean, somebody who buys a bottle of Frog's Leap is not less likely to buy a bottle of Tablas Creek. I mean, they're more likely to. So it's not as though you put me and John up on a panel together that we're competing with one another. I mean, this is, and that's unusual. I think that, I mean, most categories, most product categories, people are competitors, and that's really not the way that we think about things, not the way that most of the winemakers that I know think about things.
Yeah. And so that's an added plus, I think, for people that's something they don't get to see at those tastings, at those wine.
Yeah, I mean, you do like some panels and things like that. You can get glimpses into that, but again, those are available only to the 110 people who are in that room.
Right. And so this way you're able to reach more of those people and those people that can't get there. Because sometimes those people that are there are already really enthusiastic about at least someone, your region or your wine or something. And so trying to reach somebody who might not be there yet is a good way to get them on board.
Totally.
Yeah.
So are there things that you realize don't work? Like changes that you've made from the beginning to now where you were like, yeah, we tried that. We thought it was going to be a good idea. It just didn't work.
Well, I think that, at the beginning, some of the feedback that we got coming back at the very beginning was people wanted us to talk more about the wines. Like they bought the wines. They want me to tell them what they're supposed to be tasting. So, I mean, not supposed to be necessarily, but really to kind of talk a little bit more about the wine, because the stories are great, that is, but if they have the glass in front of them, they really kind of want to do it with you. So that was some feedback. So we've tried to make sure we focus on that, especially when you get into ones that are more intricate, like the one we did with you, or if you're just looking at, Tuscan wines or something where you're really looking at the differences between three styles or something along those lines. So we realized 30 minutes usually is too short. So we usually say between 30 and 45 minutes, but typically 45 minutes. We realized that 6 wines is probably a lot.
Yeah.
Beginning pandemic. So I think a lot of times there were only 2 people. It's like, what do you want us to do with 6 wines? And I'm like, I don't know, it's pandemic. Breakfast? What? I don't know. So, those kinds of things. And also kind of learning, I think, a little bit of cadence of maybe sometimes depending on who's coming on, kind of, just making sure that you have enough time for everybody to speak. And you were there, we always talk to them beforehand, at least one call beforehand, just to kind of, so everybody's kind of prepared, make sure kind of like, here's how it's going to flow, here's kind of what we want to do, so nobody's really taken off guard or startled or can't, or talks forever or something like that. So I think that whole thing, like I told you from the beginning, is kind of that whole planning. I mean, we want it to be kind of fun and a conversation, but we also want it to have a flow of some sort. So
yeah, it's funny. That first thing you mentioned, the talk about the wines, I often get surprised when I shouldn't be surprised anymore, but often get reminded when I'm doing events with the consumers who have our wines that I might go 20 minutes before I start talking about the first wine, and people I know are just sort of drumming their fingers on the table like, can I drink yet?
Yeah, I did start saying that sometimes too. If I know we're going to go into a lot of stories, I'm like, okay, if you've got wines at home, go ahead and start sipping. That's totally fine. We're going to be talking. So you don't have to wait. It's okay. But yeah, that kind of the talk about the wines thing is, you would think that would be an obvious thing, but it's interesting how some people just kind of skip over that part.
Right.
Yeah.
So are there new things that you are looking forward to doing this year that you can talk about? There's a lot of planning stages right now, and that's actually something that Mike and Kat are kind of doing.
we had some ideas, but I feel like I'm finally, because like, as you know, we just moved. And so I was just in like move, unpack kind of mode, like use this break. Um, new, different people, new people get a little bit geeky. I'd love to hear what people are interested in hearing about too. So, I'm not sure yet. I think
Leave a comment. Leave a comment when
leave a comment.
you
Yeah.
watch this, if there's something that you really want to see, and we'll
So yes, I wouldn't. I mean, I think it would be kind of fun to do. Maybe I'll do one on Virginia wineries. What about that? Could be. I don't know if you're going to be able to get them from wine.com, but I can do one on Virginia wineries. Yeah, but I think there's a lot of still opportunity. Like even repeating certain themes, there's always so many people out there and so many different options and exciting things going on that I think that's definitely there. It would be cool to be able to go to some of these places too. Maybe, one of my thoughts is, I mean, is it possible to do anything where you're getting virtual tours as well and that sort of thing for different places? I know a lot of wineries do those on their own, but for more of an audience, some virtual tours.
We would love to do that. Our
Yeah.
challenge is that we live in a place with no cell phone coverage, and so as soon as we go more than like 50 feet from the winery building, all of a sudden everything goes black.
Maybe like a bottling video, or I thought it would be cool. I mean, you could do something with we could do something where you learn like how grafting, because like I learned all about grafting. I did my diploma. I know this stuff, but actually seeing it, somebody's going to hold us to the Virginia wine feature. Okay, we'll come visit. Wine and food pairing. Yeah,
that was Walsh.
Wine and food pairing. We will probably do more of those. We did a wine and cheese, which was like, it didn't have as many people on it as I thought. It was one of my favorites because we did it with Laura Werlin, the cheese lady, and she's amazing. Then we did it with Russ from Silverado, and it was just delicious. I'd never had goat cheddar. Goat cheddar is fantastic. It's a great. I don't know. You have goats. Do you make any cheese? You don't make any cheese though, right?
We have sheep, not goats.
Oh,
and no one has yet volunteered to milk the sheep. So
okay.
No, we don't make any cheese.
No brebis for you. And we did a wine and chocolate one, which was fun. But I think that there's a lot more potential for some, like even more kind of geeky, like how does wine and food interact in your mouth, and kind of talking about that sort of thing. So we could get all educational. I think that, I would like to, I mean, that's because that's my thing, is a little bit more of the how to taste kind of things, some educational things that maybe we can get some partners in on. Talk about, the sniffing and the swirling and the sipping, and just kind of what to look for when you taste wine, the how to taste. So hopefully maybe that will come around.
Yeah, I think there's certainly demand for all of those things. I mean, the thing about wine is that the world is endless. I mean, there's an almost endless number of grapes and regions and producers and pretty much an endless number of wines, and then different ways to get into wine, whether it's through like history or whether it's through variety, whether it's through winemaking, and it's only up to the limits of your imagination.
Yeah, it really is, and it's constantly evolving and changing. And thank goodness, because I got a lot of time on my hands right now. So, no, I'm excited to start them up again. It's cool that I think again, like they will evolve. I think as people are more out and about. And that's why it's great to also see more people come back to watch things. I know that you keep yours on your IGTV, so that when people aren't home often, can come back at their own leisure to enjoy.
Yep. Yeah, and we just sat down this morning to kind of plot out some of the educational stuff that we were going to do this year. And one of the things that we're going to start doing now that we have all 14 of the Chateauneuf du Pape varieties in the vineyard is we're going to do, maybe not every month, but maybe every couple of months, do kind of a deep video dive into each of the grapes that we grow. So talking about how they grow and how we make wine out of them and what they taste like and what their history is.
Yeah.
And
they all got great. And they're so much fun to say, like Bourbelenc and Picpoul and
Picpoul. That's everybody's favorite.
Picpoul. Yeah, gotta be.
Cool. Well, I can't believe that it has been half an hour already been half an hour. I'm super
Oh my,
grateful for you taking the time to talk about what you've been working on. If people want to learn more about the wine.com educational program, virtual tastings, how do they do that?
so we have wine.com/experiences. I'm pretty sure it's wine.com/virtual tastings too. We also have the wine.com YouTube channel, which is youtube/wine.com, but you spell out the dot because they don't let you put a little it there. So it's wine.com, but we have all of our virtual tastings there. The majority of the wines are still available to buy on wine.com if you wanted to get the pack. We kind of package them together to learn about those. And then see, we're on Instagram at wine_com. I'm on Instagram at Gwendolyn's Glass. And yeah, and that's kind of how we can do it. And we'll be posting the schedule on that experiences page soon once we have a few under our planned for the month.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and
Having me.
all the awesome advocacy for wines and wineries and our region and our wines, and just grateful. Looking forward to 2021.
Me too. Yes. And drinking more Tablas goal. It's a goal for me.
Excellent.
All right.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, everybody who joined. Thank you, Gwendolyn.
Right.
I will be back in 2 weeks. This is, again, every other week schedule for me. Meanwhile, be safe out there, and we'll connect soon. So, again, thank you so much for joining, everybody who did.